Alexander Arrington here, and just taking a second to talk to you guys about how I deal with anger and frustration, all that. I was at work today, and there was a new guy, and he's working, and he's not being able to keep up with what we're doing, and he's just getting frustrated, and people are looking at him, and he's just like, you know, getting frustrated. One of the things I wanted to share with you guys is the way that I deal with anger and frustration, and maybe some of the things that you can do, some of the tips that you can use that can help you as an individual whenever you're dealing with a stressful situation or someone's upset with you. One of the first things I always do is disassociate myself from the situation, whatever is happening. To the best of my ability, disassociate yourself from what is happening, which means if a lot of times whenever we're angry about something or we're experiencing something really stressful, we're so immersed in it, you know, that we can't see anything else except that particular problem. When people commit suicide, they're not thinking, they're not thinking of other things. They're completely, absolutely focused on their issues, their problems. That's a really sad thing, because they're locked in this black box that's completely focused on how they feel in the anger. They're not thinking of anything else other than that. So they're completely focused on that. So they're completely immersed. One of the things that I do whenever there's a stressful situation is disassociate myself, or I put myself further out from the situation. I look at it from a different viewpoint. So instead of looking at it like right in front of the person and that person's screaming at you and they're yelling and they're blah, 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 you're this, and what you have to do is take your mind and see yourself arguing with this person, or this person arguing with you. And so you're basically looking at this situation from a viewpoint that's further away than being right there. If you're right there, you have to do something, you have to get angry, you have to, deal with the situation. If you can separate your mind and look at it from a different viewpoint, then it becomes a little different, even if you do it like a further away. Or if you put yourself outside and you just hear people arguing inside, all of a sudden you have a much calmer, much more relaxed viewpoint towards what's happening, because you're disassociated. It's similar to visualizing riding a roller coaster, which is pretty scary, pretty stressful. Now imagining yourself watching the roller coaster and watching other people screaming and like, this is so crazy. It's a completely different experience and feeling, opposed to watching something and being involved in something. So that's one of the things I do. And the reason you want to do things like that is because generally when you're angry, when you're upset, when you're frustrated, you are absolutely associated with the problem. Maybe somebody's broken a rule that you have, they've disrespected your family, they've disrespected you, they've done something that totally irritates you to the max, and they've just went too far. And so now your emotions are completely involved in this situation. And so if you can disassociate yourself from, or you can change your representations of the situation, it becomes a little bit different, as opposed to being completely immersed in the situation. I seem to be rambling. I've kind of lost my thought. But one of the things I do also, if you can change your representations, you can change your emotions toward the feelings. So another thing that I do is you can freeze the person in your mind. You can freeze the person. And so if a person is angry and you can freeze that. Now that looks pretty ridiculous. If they're now that's a completely, and so then if you can freeze that, then it almost becomes funny because now you're looking at a still frame of a person who's screaming at you, but instead of them looking like this and you're processing their emotions, all of a sudden you've frozen the situation, and so they look pretty ridiculous. And so you want to, in order to change your emotions, you have to change and twerk your representation system. It's similar to what people do with a scary movie. If you're watching a scary movie, or let's say you're going on YouTube, if you find something interesting, generally what I do is you make it full screen. You know, so it's little, and you're like, oh, this is hilarious. I got to make this. This is good. I got to make it bigger. So you go, you know, and you make it bigger, and you know, you turn it up. You make sure, hey, be quiet. I'm trying to listen to this, and so you're really focused. Now, the interesting thing about life and how powerful your mind is that you can do that same thing. You can twerk it. You know, so if you're in a situation, you know, even with a scary movie, you can change your representations just by changing the music. You know, if you're watching a scary part, you know, and, you know, there's eerie music, you know, they deliberately manipulate your emotions. You know, it's always dark, it's always cloudy, it's always this ominous, you know, and, you know, what's behind the corner, you know, and there's this tense noise. Now, what would happen if you're watching that same movie, and then instead of that music, you turned it all the way down and you started going, that doesn't become scary anymore. Or if you make her say dumb comments, the girl that's running, or she's scared, you know, if she's like, who's there, you know, it becomes a different representation system. So the same is true with your life. In order to create different emotions, different feelings, you have to adjust the volume. You have to, if there's ignorant, arrogant people that are screaming at you, turn them down. If there's people screaming at you, you can freeze them. I'm just going to pause that. You know, I don't want to hear that. Or you can, you know, you can go further away in your mind. You know, people often say they're stressed out and they say, I need a vacation, I need to get away, I need to get far. Well, the thing is, you can do that through meditation as well. You know, when people are really stressed out, it's a great thing to do is to meditate and just really take your mind further away from your problem. And that's a great help. But that's a few things I wanted to share, because I see a lot of people stressed out. I see a lot of people frustrated. Maybe you see it at your job too. You see people just getting pissed off about everything. You know, hey, you didn't wipe off their they didn't wipe off their table or whatever, you know, that they were using. So, you know, people get pissed off and they just say, how could they, you know, oh God, you know, I have to do this, or, you know, hey, we need you to work over here instead. You know, I know you usually work over here, but we're going to have you work over here. People are like, ah, crap, this is bull crap, you know, and I want to quit this job. They get really angry about different things. The thing is, in order to be happier, we have to change our representational systems.